This time on Bone Revivals, we're back to wrenching on Black Betty. We got the 283 swap done in the last video in this series. Today it's time to continue our work with some exhaust work, a power steering pump, a new aluminum radiator, and a bunch of other goodies. I got our Holley 600 off of the 283 here. I had to borrow the dual feed line off of this carb to put on to the carburetor that's currently on the 350 in the square body. And so my solution for now is going to be, until I get another one in, is I'm going to go ahead and throw this Quadrajet on it. This Quadrajet was on the 307. And the cool part about this, this Edelbrock intake here, is that this is obviously our gasket for the Quadrajet. It's got the 2 sets of bolt holes, and you also see how the back is elongated to accept the Quadrajet. So it's cool. It's kind of a dual purposed intake, so I can go ahead and throw a Quadrajet back on this bad boy, and we'll see how the Quadrajet wants to run with everything here. All right, so the Quadrajet is on. We got the other starter in, and the other starter works. We have some issues with this Quadrajet, but even if we can't get it to run right now, I want to get it rolled into the garage. I want to get this radiator out of it. I want to get the new aluminum one that we got for it in it. I want to get coolant in it. I want it to actually be able to, you know, go through the cooling cycle, make sure that new radiator's good. We need to get a fan on, fan shroud, pretty much kind of button this thing back up so it's once again good. I know what's wrong with it. It ain't got no gas in it. I'm pretty sure I remember saying it burnt up all the fuel in this. I put it down because it finally ran out of all the fuel that I put in it last year. And I remember putting like a gallon in it. So it probably burned through all that too, because it sat here and ran for a little bit. The old radiator is out. Here is our new aluminum one, and that I'm super excited to put in here. It is a 3-row. It's not a special brand name. I got it off Amazon. If you guys are looking for something like this, I'll try to remember to leave the link in the description for you guys, so you guys can go check it out. But I think I paid, I want to say like 200 something bucks for this. So I mean, it's really cheap. And yeah, it's probably, you know, it's been casted overseas, unfortunately. And some of the welds maybe aren't fabulous, but overall I think it looks pretty sweet, and it should fit too, so we'll find out here. Oh yeah, all day. That's nice. Dang. I think in the future I'm going to be figuring something out with this hood. This cowl hood, obviously it works, and it's, you know, the one that I had laying around. But there's no hood prop, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to work on because I have to have my handy dandy prop rod, so it's been kind of annoying, and I'm waiting for it to slip and for it to break in half because it's a fiberglass deal. But let's see. Oh, that's where that went. Well, that's good. That's not where you're supposed to be. The only thing that I'm going to be very mad at myself is when I pulled the distributor out, I didn't spin this thing over to TDC like I should have. So it was just an easy out, easy back in. So we're going to have to fight with that. I need to reroute some of these, like the battery terminals and stuff. They're just kind of a mess. Here's the distributor we got. This is the base that came out of 283 when we first bought it. It does have a different rotor on it, different ignition module, and then I have a whole nother cap and rotor set. I wanted to make sure that our vacuum advance is working. It should. Here's obviously a distributor. We see obviously have a rotor on it. It's not a complete one, but something that I've always done is I've always pointed, you know, your pointer towards number 1. And I've even said it in previous videos that that's the way to do it. It doesn't necessarily matter if this points at cylinder number 1 or not. Once you get your distributor set in, it's important that the tip of your pointer is actually pointing at number 1. So if this is number 1 and this is the pointer, you want them lined up. I always pick this front one here. That's just the way I prefer to do it. Because realistically, it technically doesn't matter. Some people are going to tell you it does, but technically for the way it functions, it doesn't matter. But it's just always the way that I've done it. So if this side, you know, is where all the plugs go in, I always pick the one in front of it to be number one. You want this guy and that pointer in relationship to each other. So when you set that on there, your pointer on the inside of the cap is pointing at this one, if this is the one you choose to be number one. And then obviously you wire it so 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2 that way. Again, you can pick something totally different. If you want to have, you know, some guys might like this pointing towards the carb for whatever reason. If you choose, you know, if this is still number one, it still needs to be pointing at number one. If, you know, you choose back here to be number one, it needs to be pointing at number one, but then you need to wire it that way. So if this is 1, it has to be 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. That makes sense? Makes sense in my head now that Joe came over and explained it. But it's something that, it's one of those things, I've technically been doing distributors wrong my entire life. And that also goes to show you, you know, why I struggle so much with these. How many times in videos you guys have watched me do it where I just struggle and I just look like an idiot all the time. Now it's something that now that I'm doing this a little more, because it's one of those things, if you don't do this all the time, you don't really remember. So that's been a struggle for me. I've been so hyper-focused on this pointing at number one that I'm never paying attention to where this is actually lined up. So, you know, if this is my number one on the cap, I've been setting the rotor like that. But my biggest problem is that the rotor's actually been a little past almost to this tab, not this one. So you just got to pay attention. So we still got some issues. Did you see that fireball? I think we should hang the exhaust on it so that doesn't happen again. And then we can play with what we need to make this thing run. I saw the flame from inside the car and I was like, oh, that was big. But then I went back and watched the video and I'm like, oh yeah, it only engulfed like the whole backside of the engine. I'm happy none of the fuel leaks because man, it would have just set the whole car on fire. God. Oh man. All right, I guess you can say I'm getting a little exhausted. That was a dad joke in case you didn't catch that one. Sliding under the car here, I do have downpipes in now. The S10 exhaust didn't work, but I kept the crossover pipe from the 84 C20, and this is going to work way better for us. It's actually the right size flange and everything. So this downpipe comes down like this. Obviously, I don't want to hack too much of it out, but it does come down way too low. So what I'm thinking is take a section out of it here and then expand, you know, this down part here. So if we take out, you know, 2 inches here, we'll expand it here, send it up here, and then maybe just tack it on a few sides. The exhaust ties in over here. And I don't necessarily want to cut the center of that out and have them Y in there specifically, just because I feel like we're going to be running a lot of pipe and I want to have $0 invested into making this work. Bouncing over here, let me grab the light for you. Looking at this side's in. What's so nice about this coming off the square body is that they already anticipated this exhaust manifold being an issue with the bell housing, so it curves it nicely. So when that's fully locked in there, you know, I can work on the rotation, but it's gonna dump right about there, which is really good. I can move these trans lines out of the way. It's not a big deal. The biggest issue that we're having right now is that the connection pipe, besides it being a rotted out pile of garbage, initially worked like that on the square body. So the up pipe on the driver's side came up over here, and then the up pipe on the passenger side came up over here. That'd be the wrong side. So I intentionally cut these off with the thought I could flip it. The only problem that we're gonna have now is getting, you know, the driver's side to connect back into here with like a 90 or something, and then getting this connected with a 90 that's actually up from the passenger side. I'm almost wondering if I snip this guy, you know, somewhere in here. This pipe is bigger and it should slip right over the existing pipe. This is the same size diameter of the down pipes. That'll slip right in nicely. It's a little big, but we'll just, and if it leaks, whatever. We're gonna try to make it not, but I'm wondering if I can get away with using a good part of this, you know, like I said, snip it here, and then I might have to work this one a little bit. Let me take some time off camera here to get some stuff worked out. We'll check back in when we're, you know, when we make some progress. Coming back in here, showing you what I did. Obviously, I am no welder by any stretch of the imagination, but that will hold. Instead of, I initially had the downpipe sliced and was trying to bend it up and weld it across there. I ended up just cutting it where I initially cut it and then throwing this 90 on. And I think it ties in really nicely. Be gone, smoke! Get out of here! Whew. Got some fresh air and some fresh ventilation. So the reason why I was backfiring before was because the timing was late. So we got the exhaust on, cranked up timing a little bit, and she just ran. And it sounds really good, actually. Is it bad of me that I don't even want to put a power steering pump on it just because I'm afraid that it's going to lose like another 20 horsepower? And at this point, I think we need every single pony we can get. I mean, it runs, and I messed with the idle a little bit, got it to idle right. I didn't put timing light on it yet, but, you know, it's hard to fire up. I just really think it's just loading up with that quadrajet for whatever reason, so... But, I mean, it probably is a little too much carb for this 283 when you really think about it. What I want to do now is jump back in up here on the engine bay. All right, so I rerouted some things. I'm going to unfortunately have to rewire some stuff. It's kind of a mess right now, but put the battery in on the passenger side just because our power cable that comes off the starter on the 307, it came from the driver's side, so they had the battery on what would be the driver's side. Because of the small block Chevy, the starter's on this side. So I have power cable ran up through here. We're going to have it go on our battery here. Also rerouted our negative cable. This is a common spot that everybody puts them. And honestly, for this application, it doesn't really bother me that much, so we'll put that there. I have to rerun my wires for the push start button and my ignition switch inside the car. So those wires are kind of just draped over there right now. I'm actually going to try to run them in. I want to do this thing kind of rightish, and I'm actually going to use, you know, the wiring looms back there that hold the wires up. We'll bring it around and I'll have to figure out where I want to run them. I don't know if I'm going to come up along the side of the engine here and bring them out, you know, here, because unfortunately, I know it's not the right way to have the car wired, but everything's wired right off to get power. It is at least ran to the switch first, so it's a toggle switch, and then that dictates if the button works or not. So it kind of has, you know, it's kind of ran kind of properly-ish. It's just all garbage components. Bouncing over here to our power steering, obviously, you know, we have all the room in the world now. Oh, we have a little bit of a leak there, huh? Might have to look at that. Anyway, this is an Amazon kit. I think I paid like, I don't know, maybe 20 bucks for it or something. If I can find the link for it, I'll try to leave it linked in the description of this video just so it kind of helps you guys out. But from what I'm seeing here, this bracket, you know, they're going to go together like this. They're not going to be together. There's these, that piece goes in between them, and there's two long ones. And, you know, these two holes on these brackets go into those two holes on the block. And then we'll be using these two holes and some of the other brackets here to kind of hold all the pump in there. Once I get it kind of in there and mocked up, I'll bring you guys back in and show you what we got going on. Well, there it is. It's all buttoned up and in there. So the brackets that they sent kind of worked out really well. That one does what it's kind of got to do. The only one that we really struggled with was this top one, which is for your adjustment. It does kind of pretty much just about touch on the front side of the pump there, but it's tight and the belt is actually pretty straight.
Jumping in here quick, the big reason why I think that this bracket was so tight up against the actual pump itself was something that you got to remember here. The front accessories that are on this 283 currently are not the original front accessories. The water pump and the alternator and all those brackets are actually from the Small Block 350 that came out of that brown square body that we had. So I think that the big main difference is the water pump length. Obviously, you have your short and your long water pumps. This one being off a 350 is going to be different than the original short one that would have been on the 283. So I think that's where that difference came from. However, it still seems to function the way it should. So we'll let it ride.
But I think it'll work for the application. I mean, I didn't expect it to be perfect, but it's kind of cool that we got a power steering pump on it, I guess. That bracket does work. Again, I'll try to leave that link down in the description for you. All right, power steering is plumbed in. This rubber hose might become a problem at some point, so I might have to figure something to redirect that. But I figure I'd fire it up, make sure it actually works. I got everything rewired. Battery's over in on the passenger side now. I guess let's fire this thing up, let it run for a little bit. I want to cycle while it's warming up, cycle that this power steering pump. If I got to put more fluid in it, I will. And then we might as well throw the timing light on it and set some sort of timing on it, so just so it's got something based. So I couldn't see the timing tab, so I took a little white pen Sharpie and the mark on the balancer, drew a line there, and then retouched up the line that's on our timing tab. That way you can actually, you know, physically see it.
Unfortunately, this is where we're going to end this video. It's one of those things. I kind of ran out of time and just a bunch of other stuff came up, and you know how it goes. Unfortunately, with this car, it just always gets put on the back burner, but we're really, really close. Pretty much next up on the list for this car is I want to go through that Holley 600 that was on it in the beginning of the video. I need to get another fuel inlet for it, get the dual feed set up for it so I can put it back on it. I think one of the other current issues that we're also having with this car, and I noticed it a time or two. I didn't pay too close of attention to it till I was going back here and editing the video. I'll pull up that clip now. When it was first initially running in the shop there, after we got the exhaust hung on it, some of you guys might have made comments about it earlier, but I'm addressing it here now at the end of this video here. It definitely sounds like it was 100% distant. Blatantly obvious, but also not, because the exhaust tone sounds really weird on this car for it being a Flowmaster kit. So it definitely sounded like it was missing though, and there's a few times where I noticed it as well, where it just kind of seemed like it didn't want to pick up, and all of a sudden it would kind of pick up and then it would come back down and it would bounce all over the place. So this car might have a really weird miss, and addressing that makes me wonder if something is going on within one of the cylinder heads. If you cast your mind back to when we first bought this engine and we did the compression test on it, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was cylinder number 1 did worse than all the other ones. It was still within 100, but it was like 107 or something like that, 107 pounds, where all the other ones were right around like, you know, 115, 120, 130, something like that. I'd be almost interested in doing a leak down test on this and seeing, you know, what the leak down test looks like, because there's a good chance that this miss is coming from a valve not properly seating. I've seen it before, so maybe in the next video we'll also be taking a look at that as well. One last thing before we wrap this video up. I feel like I shouldn't have to address this at this point, but I also feel like it's necessary that I do. This car is specifically put together for my entertainment and your guys' entertainment. And within that entertainment, it also creates a lot of learning opportunities for myself and for the viewers that are watching. Literally, the whole point of it is $0 invested, make a car that can run and drive, and we can just go beat the balls off of and have fun. I feel like it's something that I constantly need to bring up, because as we keep growing here on Boner Revivals, more and more new people are coming in and seeing this and going, oh my God, this car is a train wreck. And yeah, no, it is. But again, that's the reason why this car is what it is, and I felt it was necessary to explain that to you guys. With that being said, that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next time here on Boner Revivals. Take care.
Oh, step growing stuck.